I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At Thursday's Senate Agriculture Committee hearing, Senator Joni Ernst questioned Secretary Tom Vilsack about challenges facing the agriculture community. She pressed Vilsack about a, quote, tidal wave of supply chain issues facing farmers. She also asked the Secretary how Biden's supply chain disruption task force plans to help lower prices and ease inflation. Listen in for the Secretary's response.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Secretary Vilsack, for being with us today. It's always good to see you. It has been a while since you've been in front of the committee, and there's just been so much happening across the front of agriculture, and you've heard a number of those issues coming from my colleagues. Right now, you know, our farmers are hurting, and there's a multifaceted crisis happening across the nation's ag community. There's a tidal wave of supply chain issues preventing our farmers from even getting the parts they need during this spring planting season. Farmers are paying more for fertilizer and other inputs, and they are really worried about the availability of them next year as well. With the sharp spike in a number of these input prices, then of course we have the rise of inflation. The food that is actually grown is costing Iowa consumers significantly more. We've seen an 11% increase in food costs since January of 2021. And at the same time, if we compare and contrast this, the administration has been pushing a pretty radical goal to conserve 30% of the U.S. land and water by 2030. And the scope of this 30 by 30 initiative is expansive. We've tried to do a dive into it, but it's littered with a lot of different buzzwords, but has very little when it comes to actual details of how this will be accomplished. One of the things that we looked for was an actual definition for conservation or what lands would be included. And so if we can dive into a few of those issues. I had this issue raised by an Iowan at one of my town halls just recently. He had a concern about the 30 by 30 initiative. And his concern was that it would be used as a method to undermine private property rights and lock up more land. There are also concerns within the recreational fishing and hunting communities that it will be used as a means to arbitrarily restrict land access for those types of activities. Can you commit to me here today that the 30 by 30 initiative will not be used to undermine private property rights or to lock up land used for recreational fishing and hunting?
Senator, I'd be happy to commit to the fact that private property rights will be respected in connection with any activities relative to conservation. That this is voluntary, it's conservation-oriented, it's farmer-led. It's basically utilizing the conservation programs that you and I have been supportive of during our entire public careers. That's what this is, and we're going to continue to look for ways in which we can provide assistance and help to expand the ability of farmers and ranchers to utilize conservation tools.
Will we get additional details on how this is going to be accomplished? We have not been able to locate specifics on the initiative.
Well, I think the details that you're going to get are the development of an atlas that is essentially going to keep track of the activities of farmers, ranchers, and producers relative to conservation. So, for example, we recently, Robert Bonning was out in Wyoming recently announcing a corridor initiative to a migratory corridor that's going to be protected. It's a partnership between the state of Wyoming, a number of those conservation hunting and angler groups to create a conservation corridor. Resources provided by the USDA, state resources, combining, leveraging, creating an opportunity for assistance. It's that type of program that I think it's collaborative, it's farmer-led, it's rancher-led, and I think we're going to continue to emphasize the fact it's voluntary and it's by all means going to respect private property rights.
And will they also maintain the rights of those hunters and fishers to engage in those types of recreational activities then?
Part of the reason we're doing this is basically to expand opportunities for hunting and fishing because we understand and appreciate the important role that plays in a rural economy.
Okay, I do appreciate that. Iowa farmers are really working hard right now to raise the crops and the livestock that are feeding our nation. and the world, and they're being hit hard by inflation and supply chain challenges. You're the co-chair of the President's Supply Chain Disruption Task Force. What actions has the task force taken to help lower prices and ensure supply today of those necessary inputs for farmers during this growing season and for next year?
Well, we have been working in terms of our ports to increase hours of operation. We are providing opportunities for pop-up facilities that basically take some of the pressure and congestion off of the ports. Our Department of Labor is working on expanding apprenticeships to be able to put folks behind the wheel of trucks that are necessary. We've worked with the Surface Transportation Board to encourage our rail system to basically make the investments necessary to have a more resilient system. As you know, the Strategic Oil Reserve has been tapped. We've obviously provided for summer utilization of E15. And there are ways in which we, as I alluded to earlier, ways in which we are at the Department of Agriculture assisting folks during a tough time that gets into the TFAP program, the SNAP program, the WIC program, and things of that nature. So it's a combination of all this, and we're going to continue to work hard to find ways to bring costs down.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Secretary. And hopefully with this Supply Chain Disruption Task Force, we can see more information broadcast widely so our citizens know exactly how the administration is working with these problems. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Absolutely. Thank you. Excuse me, Senator Tuberville.